I'm going to ask if everybody's okay. Let's call the meeting to order, and I'm going to ask Councilman Griffith to bring a few words.
Dear Lord, we thank you for this day, for this fellowship, for this time to make our city a better place to live. We ask that you please bless us and remind us to put others first, and just remember to always do the greater good for the whole city. And Lord, if we can keep this meeting short, that would be great too. Amen. We got an opportunity today. So
Okay. All right, Councilman, I hear you, man. I hear you. Down to temporary encroachments. Mr. Bryan, are you on the line?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. O'Brien, this is Mr. Fountain.
Okay.
Mr. O'Brien had let me know that he had a doctor's issue come up that he had to be at, so he asked if I could let you know that there were not any unusual encroachments in his opinion on the agenda, and he felt they were all acceptable.
we've got to approve the minutes.
Okay. Well, Councilman, you offer a motion on those minutes?
Move for approval.
Second.
We got a second? Can we get a second to his motion?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry, second. Any discussion on those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Griffith. So we're down to item H. This is Barbary Woods.
Move for approval.
Mr. Fountain, you gonna address that? We get a second?
I certainly can, Mr. Chairman.
Well, let me get a second to this motion.
Second.
Probably moved and seconded. Now, Mr. Fountain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So items 1 and 2 are somewhat linked together. These are the professional service contracts in relation to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant that we accepted at the last meeting, the $137,000 grant with the 50-50 match from the city. The first item is the amendment with W.K. Dixon, who is the prime on the Barbary Woods project for basically the engineering and design services work. This work will basically identify the existing natural drainage and somewhat man-made drainage pathways on the city's portion of Johns Island, figure out which of those need to be preserved and then which of those need to be restored, similar to what we're looking at in the Barbary Woods project, and basically come up with that as a plan for the island.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll amend my motion to be 1 and 2.
Okay, great. You accept that, Councilman Shaheed? Think you who seconded it?
I did.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, you accept that amendment? All right, good.
Mr. Chairman, the item 2 is the second part of that contract with this is the Water Institute of the Gulf, which is the primary Dutch dialogue team in coordination for the Dutch dialogues with a couple of other firms, but the Water Institute of the Gulf is Dale Morris's group. This is the public outreach and engagement component of the work with the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation for that Johns Island grant.
Okay. Any additional questions from Mr. Fountain? All in favor of the motion and the amended motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. We're going to go to the ordinance, but before we go to the ordinance, Mr. Fountain, do you have any updates on any of stormwater projects around the city?
So we had pretty extensive updates the last 2 meetings. We will have another round of updates next meeting. At this point, the biggest update since the previous meeting is that we have had our kickoff for the Windermere Drainage Improvement Project, and that project is underway at this point.
Okay. All right. That's it. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, if it please the committee, I was going to make a recommendation that on our next meeting, when we get our project reports, to ask Mr. Fountain to focus on the James Island Central Park road area, the study that was recently completed by AECom, to go into a little more detail about where we are with the numerous projects that have been proposed, and maybe talk about the path going forward, so that we would have the expectation of hopefully being able to, not hopefully, but of being able to fund those projects. In addition, I think in a similar vein, and with our partner, the County of Charleston, we're close to moving forward with some projects from the DUWAP drainage study. And so, rather than going through every project citywide, we just focus on those two areas next time and maybe treat them with a little more detail and discussion.
I couldn't agree more, Mr. Mayor. As a matter of fact, on the James Island piece, I'd like to add a part in that. In looking at it, Mr. Font, I know when you addressed it the last time, the time scenario that you went through, I'm sure was apropos, but I'm wondering if there's any way if we can find a way to accelerate some of this, because in particular, some of the known improvements to the infrastructure that exists. So in doing that information that the mayor's addressed this now, in light of looking at that, if you can look at it from, if anything that we can do to improve or accelerate, here we are talking about getting funding, but if there's, hypothetically, if we had the funding, how could we accelerate some of the infrastructure, in particular downstream, over there off Central Park Road and the surrounding basin in that area. So not that you don't have enough on your plate, but if we can at the next meeting have that, because I'm sure most of you all, I know I am, hearing a lot from the people over in that area, and rightly so. So I think there's some solutions out there. We've got the report back. I think we'll find a way to pay for it. And hypothetically, how can we accelerate at least some aspects to it? Any other input? I see Councilor Jackson on the line. Do you have any input, Ms. Jackson?
Thanks. I was just going to text the mayor. Maybe when we report on the basin work, that we could add the Signal Point Road basins too, which has been primarily the county's lead, but it's a similar cooperative arrangement between us and the county. So maybe make it Operation Day.
Which basin is that?
Signal Point. It's toward the southern part of James Island, down by the right where you were last week, Mayor, near the PSD headquarters.
Right.
Further south, down toward Grimble Farm.
So, given that request, in addition to the other two, Matt, do you think it's appropriate? Maybe you could ask someone from the county's stormwater department to join us at the next meeting to complement the discussion about all that.
Yeah, I can certainly do that.
Okay. And it's okay, Mr. Fountain. I'll circle back to you about the doo-wop area, because there are a number of people, believing it or not, want to come forward and give easements to try. I touched base at the last meeting on that, but I think we need to have some kind of potential communication that goes out and let them know where we are on the cusp of getting some improvements out there, and obviously, if any people would like to help by accelerating, by coming forward with needed easements, that would make everybody think better for everybody. Any last items to come before we adjourn?
But we got
Yeah, we need to approve that.
The ordinance. We got the ordinance.
Move for approval.
Well, wait a minute. I saw Councilman Pell had his hand up on the issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to briefly state that between the mention of South Windermere, Central Park, and doo-wop, I'm beside myself. I mean, we got District 11 covered today, and I just can't say how thankful I am that we're putting some wind at the sails of these initiatives and showing our folks in West Ashley and James Island that we're not about just studying and evaluating these issues. We're actually about funding the needed projects that we've identified, and doing so in a way that delivers the best bang for the buck, which is long anticipated and much appreciated over here in District 11. Thank you.
All right, good. Now I'll do the ordinance. Item I. Is Mr. McQueenie going to address that, or somebody from legal? I see Ms. Borden. Is anybody from legal, Ms. Urdina, going to address item I?
And Mr. Chairman, I can certainly start, and
Okay.
if Chip or Susan would like to jump in, or Mr. Jolka. So I mean, this is the item basically to amend the ordinances to adopt the FEMA flood insurance study for Charleston County, similar to what we did with Berkeley County when the new flood insurance rate maps came through.
Right.
This has an effective date. The way FEMA set these up, it has an effective date for all parties of January 29th, 2021. That's something that FEMA's put into the requirements to try to make it a more even adoption date across the entire series of jurisdictions within the county. So it's a little more straightforward for us. And that's why we have that effective date there of January 29, 2021 in the ordinance. So and if Mr. McQueen wants to weigh in, I think it's a 3 reading ordinance. So this will be the first reading, then move to council for formal
That's
readout.
first reading. Okay. Yeah, Mr.
Yeah.
McQueen?
I'm here, but I did not draft this ordinance, so I don't know.
Okay.
I
Hey,
just pulled
this
up
is
that in-
Sterling. Can you hear me?
Sterling.
Okay,
Hey,
Sterling.
I did draft it. If anyone has any questions, I did work with Steven on the wording and everything for this ordinance. But it basically just changes the language in that one section to reference the new effective date.
Okay. All right, great. Any additional questions on this? You got a motion on the floor.
One more
I'll
thing
move
I'll
it.
point out.
Okay. Go ahead, Sterling.
I'm sorry. One more thing I thought I'd point out is that it is effective for all new building permit applications submitted on or after that date of January 29th of 2021. So I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure everyone understood that. It will be for permit applications to be submitted after that date.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Mayor.
Chairman, I would just suggest to Matt and our team that we make sure we share to the public a link to whatever website the public can go through the maps and take a look at them and that kind of thing. Maybe the PIO office could help with that, but we ought to try to get the word out if anybody's interested.
I agree. All right. So we have a motion on this already?
We didn't, so moved.
Yes,
So properly moved and I guess seconded by Councilman Griffin. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Now I think that's it. Any last items?
Move for adjournment.
Move for adjournment. By acclamation, we stand adjourned. And you know what? My meeting did last shorter than real estate. I just want you to know that, Councilman.
You know what? You know what? I was waiting for you to make that comment, and I was thinking, I'm gonna start reading from the Bible or something just to extend this.
Councilmember Griffin, I'm going to call that an answer to a prayer.
Thank you so much, guys. I'll
The
see you.
only reason it lasted longer is because we had a beautiful recitation from Councilmember Appel that he read to us in light of the passing of our beloved
Oh, man.
associate. And I think perhaps it'd be a good idea if you wanted to read that again, if you wish to hear what you missed.
I'll have to tell my grandmas to tune in. They'll be quelling.
Yeah.
No, listen, I'm not kidding. I'm serious about that. I agree. I think you should. It's very apropos, man. That was. Have you ever seen that before from a Supreme Court justice where people go up to the courthouse and
Never.
a memorial like that with flowers? I mean, such a wonderful lady. No,
I can tell you from the state and the federal side, when it comes to Supreme Court justices or judges, the only outpouring that we saw similar to that would have been for Saul Blott Jr. when he died after he was a longer serving federal judge, I think in the country, if definitely within the Fourth Circuit jurisdictional span of several states. So a beloved jurist on the federal district side, but not at all comparable to what we see from this woman and her impact that she had on our country. And God bless her soul.
I agree. Yeah, so hopefully we can put a little insert there in the agenda for Councilman Appel to do that. I think that'd be very appropriate.
Well, thank y'all. I'm honored. Really, that means a lot.
I'm calling you on that.
All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. You see all y'all tomorrow.
All right,
Bye bye.
Thanks, y'all. I'll put a tie on.
please.